Squirrels! So hello, and welcome to another Legends of Runeterra video. My name is Chris, and today we have still no champion. Come on, Riot. But it looks like we've got some Fizz followers, which I'm really quite excited about, because unlike Teemo, or any really of the other Yodels, Fizz never really seemed to fit Bilgewater that well. You know, the whole attune thing never really came together for Fizz, so I'm quite excited to see what he can do in Bandle City, because I think it might be, you know, potentially quite a bit better. So let's look at Bandle City and what's going on here. 1 mana card burst speed spell, so already Fizz likes that kind of thing. Manifest, so that's the create, you know, the 3 random cards. And Octopus, or 1 of 2 spells from your regions that cost 3 or less. So let's look for Octopus first. Here's Octopus. So you can manifest a 1 mana 1/1 with attune, which when summoned creates a prank in hand. God, this is like a little game in itself, looking for all these. What's prank? Prank is here. So prank is a 1 mana focus speed spell. Pick 1 of 2 non-champion cards in the enemy's hand or deck. Prank it. What does that mean? I might need to go to Twitter to see what prank it does. So bear with me. Okay, so right now I have no idea what prank does. So we're going to move on from any card that says prank on it. We're going to instead go to Shell Game, which is a 5 mana burst speed spell. Refill your spell mana. Give an ally elusive and 1/1 this round. Refill your spell mana. So it's kind of... it's an interesting card. Again, you can see that these are all designed for Fizz, very much so, it seems. Refill your spell mana. So, sort of costs 2, but you need 5 mana to do it. Give an ally elusive and 1/1 this round. Obviously, we've seen Ghost be actually pretty good recently. We've seen Ghost be good pretty recently. Is giving it elusive and 1/1 this round really worth it? And the fact that you have to have 5 mana to play this, I don't think so. I don't think that that is ultimately worth the cost of this card, so unfortunate for Shell Game, I guess. Tricksy Tentacles is a 2 mana fast speed spell. Your opponent discards their lowest cost card. Now, as someone who loves discard and loved it in Magic the Gathering, your opponent discarding their lowest cost card. Oh, is that worth 2 mana? Man, that's so tough. That's so tough. It possibly is, right? It possibly is worth the 2 mana. Because if they've only got 1 card in hand, then that could be something big. If they've got a couple cards in hand, you won't ever be playing this that early on. Against some things, it's a lot better than against others. You think of Ezreal Draven, and you know, you're thinking, oh god, this card is like a useless card. Because what? They're going to discard an Axe, they're going to discard an Ignition. You know, this card becomes a lot less useful. But against some things, you know, 2 mana to get rid of a, you know, Twin Disciplines, you're at least trading even. Most of the time, I would have thought that you will at least trade even on this. You know, that it'll at least still be 2 mana for 2 mana. And then obviously, sometimes it will be 2 mana for a lot more. The fact it can discard anything, you know, champion spells, that was a big problem with Hunt the Weak, is 1, it was slow speed. 2, it was that. The problem is as well, though, you know, you go in to play this at fast speed, but then they just play their entire hand. You know, they just go, okay, well, I can play this card. So you have to be very, you know, thinking about when they're going to play this. And unfortunately, I think unless you have a reason to discard their cards, the discard doesn't make much sense, if you understand what I mean. Where, unless there is like a champion where, you know, that levels up when you've made your opponent discard a certain amount of cards, or your opponent has no cards in hand, kind of an anti-jinx. Unless that is the case, then I guess this won't see play. But if that does become the case, then this will see play. Short Tooth is a 1 mana 4/2 overwhelm that, thank God, doesn't have a mana gem. Oh my god, I was about to lose my mind. I was like, power creep? Much? Thank God that doesn't have a mana gem. Okay, what creates Short Tooth? Shark Trainer does. He's a 7 mana Bilgewater Bandle City card with a tune. When allies attack, spend 1 spell mana to summon an attacking Short Tooth. That's not bad, you know, a 7 mana 6/6. I was saying this yesterday, that a lot of 7 mana cards aren't great. There's very few that, like, you know, you can even consider. Like, obviously, Rekindler is one, Eclipse Dragon, and Snapvine. I think other like 3 that, you know, make sense. Is it Snapvine? The Viego one, whatever the Viego one is called. And a lot of it is to do with a lot of the time they don't have good stats. And I think, again, this might be just lacking a bit too much in stats to see play. If this was a 7/7, I think you could maybe consider it. But unfortunately, it's a 6/6, and therefore it trades with, like... It trades with just too much. I just think having, like... Being a 7/7 for something like this, it is only when allies attack, so you don't actually have to do it itself. You spend 1 mana to summon a 4/2 with Overwhelm, that's fine. It's a fine ability, but I don't necessarily know if it's ever really worth it. Also says 1 spell mana. Like, do you have to have the spell mana? Like, what if you don't? Does it not count? You can't do this? Because that, again, is a weird limitation on this card. So, again, this is a very meh card. Octopus is a card you can just put in your deck. Still don't know what Prank does, so we're going to skip over it. Kelp Maidens is a 2-mana 2/1. Nexus Strike creates a Prank in hand, so again, it's just creating... this card, but again, don't know what that does. Concologist, great name for a card, is again just a Bandle City card. 2-mana 2/2, manifest a spell from your regions that cost 3 or less. We obviously know that this kind of ability is pretty strong. So, you know, this will be fine. Interesting, it says your regions. Not quite sure how that works with dual region, but I would assume that it's only counting like the 2 regions that will come up when you're actually playing the deck. But, you know, potentially you can look at different regions that this would be in. You know, I'm thinking Shadow Isles already as, like, you know, you think about Shadow Isles, and obviously it will depend on the Bandle City spells that are 3 mana or less. But I think of Shadow Isles and I think, you know, Glimpse, Stalking Shadows, Valfeast, you know, all good spells. But then you can also get, you know, Fading Memories, Mark of the Isles. Again, perfectly fine spells. So certain regions this will be better than others, of course. So... you know, that will probably depend as well on the Bandle City ones in particular. Benemone is a 4-mana 4/3. When I'm summoned, create 2 pranks in hand. So I just need to figure out what pranks do, so bear with me 1 second. So this is what pranked does. You basically get to look at 2 of your opponent's cards and apply a, you know, random negative effect on them. So for instance, River Shaper here would have 2 less power. That one would be very good because River Shaper has a strike effect, for instance. You know, those kind of things. So that's what Prank does. So, and it says random here on the tweet. Take a peek at 2 of your opponent's cards and apply a random negative effect to one of them. So it says random. I guess you get to see the effect first before you pick it, but before that, let's go back then and start evaluating some of these cards. So thank you, Riot, for the confirmation of what Prank does. So here is Trinket Trade. We get to manifest an Octopus or one of 2 spells from your regions that cost 3 less. So again, this is similar to what I talked about with the other card that's doing this kind of thing. The spells from your regions that cost 3 or less, you know, will be important. Interesting to see if Trinket Trade can manifest itself. But this will depend, you know, a lot on the spells that Bandle City has that cost 3 or less, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But the fact you can get Octopus, who then gives you the 1 spell mana back, which is quite nice, and you get a Prank, which, I mean, this seems very much down my kind of thing, to give negative effects on these things, so I definitely want to make a Prank deck. You would have also thought that this will synergize with Ava somehow, but I don't know how the random negative effects will get doubled. Is that a trap? Are pranks traps? I would think that they're not, actually. The more I think about it, I think pranks aren't traps, and instead they're just going to have random negative effects. You know, it's possible that, you know, prank will be a sort of keyword that might turn up on another champion, but I definitely like it. It's definitely funny at the very least. So now we can start looking at the other cards as well. So let's quickly take a look. So as I said, Trinket Trade, yeah, it's fine, right? It's fine. Octopus on its own as a card that you might play. Again, if there is some reason to want to have multiple pranks, then I guess you will. But it is a 1-mana 1/1, which is not ideal, but then it does have a tune, so maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. It's probably a fine, decent card. Kelp Maidens is a 2 mana 2/1 Nexus Strike elusive, create a prank in hand. Now any 2 mana 2/1 with elusive has already got like a baseline of being at least decent. And then the fact that it creates you cards anytime you get a Nexus Strike off probably means that it's actually pretty good. And so yeah, I quite like this. It's a pretty solid card, I think. And Benemone is a 4 mana 4/3 that creates 2 pranks in hand. Now, you can sort of see this as similar to Chumpwump, and I think, you know, pranks and putting 5 mushrooms in the enemy deck is probably about the same, I think, in terms of like overall impact on the game. I would say that that is possibly likely. So yeah, this is like a Chumpwump, which is a fine card. You know, again, though, you'll want the synergy for it. You know, you don't really see Chumpwump these days just being played in general. You know, it's with mushroom decks, so I think Benemone will kind of be in the same sort of field. So let's quickly give a rating to all these cards. Trinket Trade, I think, is a fine card. It's like a 6.5. Shell Game is not that great, I don't think. This is like a 3.5. Trixie Tentacles is very difficult, but right now I'm going to put it of a 5.5. Maybe a 6, something in that range. Short Tooth, obviously, we can't play. Shark Trainer, again, I think is just a little too slow. I think this is like a 4, where you'll probably have just better things that you want to be doing. Octopus is probably like a 6.5. I think this card is actually perfectly fine. Kelp Maidens, I think, is the best card of these. This, I think, is like an 8. Elusive, obviously, is just good. Nexus Strike with a good ability. Like, if Bandle City Elusives becomes a thing, I think Kelp Maidens will probably make its way into that deck. Concologist is also a decent card. You know, a 2 mana 2/2 isn't a great stat line, but again, depending on what your other region is, this could be a pretty good card. This is like a 6.5, I think. Benemone is like I said, like a Chumpwump. Like, if there is a lot of reason to be in pranks, then this is like probably like a 7. Like, it's good in a deck that actually wants it, but you know, you'll probably maybe like a 6.5, 7. I think both of these are like 6.5, 7s. And prank you can't main deck either. So that is that. Thank you so much for watching. Took a while to figure out what pranks were, but we got there in the end. I'm really excited for pranks. I think that's a really cool idea. But until next time and tomorrow, where I'm praying we get a champion. We've now had Teemo followers. We now have Fizz followers. Riot, come on now. Now it's time. Come on. Come on, Rito. But thank you so much for watching and have a really nice day.